Welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live for the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now to get on with our second topic for conversation this morning, which is on security in the Gulf of Guinea issues and the way forward. This is coming ahead of a global conference on maritime security that will be taking place here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. That should be next week, beginning on Monday. We have two guests with us in the studios. First, let's welcome Dr. Dakuku Peterside. He's Director General of NIMASA.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
My pleasure. Okay. And good morning, viewers.
All right. Also here with us in the studios today, we captured him in Abuja. Usually he joins us from our Lagos Network studios. Hassan Bello, Executive Secretary and CEO of Nigerian Shippers Council.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you with us on the program.
My pleasure.
All right. So let's begin with NIMASA, who is the regulator of blue economy in the country. Why are we hosting the Global Maritime Security Conference?
Thank you very much. There are many reasons why we're hosting the Global Maritime Security Conference. One, which is a soft issue, is the perception, and I like to emphasize the word perception, meaning that it's not real. The perception that Nigeria is the hottest spot for piracy and maritime crime in the world today, or on a regional scale, that the Gulf of Guinea is the hot spot of piracy and maritime crime in the world today. The second reason is that it is acknowledged globally that the economic implications of piracy and maritime crime is enormous, and that Africa, more than any other continent of the world, and precisely the Gulf of Guinea, faces this challenge. It affects our economy. Unfortunately, we have a peculiar situation. The backwaters of the Niger Delta has become a theater of war where criminals steal crude, aided by foreigners, where we have kidnapping for ransom. We, of course, have serious security incidents in the backwaters of the Niger Delta. And so we decided to take leadership in the Gulf of Guinea and the continent of Africa, bringing the whole world to Abuja to define the precise nature of the security challenge we face in the Gulf of Guinea region, to also find solution to the challenge and agree on a roadmap to dealing with this issue at the national level, regional level, continental level, and global level. We acknowledge as a fact that there are continental frameworks to deal with maritime security, the Africa Integrated Maritime Strategy. There is even a global framework, the United Nations Convention of Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, and suppression of unlawful acts at sea. There are also regional frameworks, including regional institutions, the Interregional Coordination Center in Yaoundé, the Yaoundé architecture. There are, of course, the Nigerian Total Spectrum Maritime Security Strategy. So it's not for lack of frameworks. It's not, again, for lack of institutions. Incidentally and unfortunately, we've not gotten desired results in dealing with this. And so this is a practical-oriented conference or practical-oriented conversation between developing countries, developed countries, and high international partners to find a solution to a problem that is affecting global commerce. You're already aware that 90% of global commerce is conducted via seaborne trade. And so whatever affects seaborne trade affects global commerce. And global commerce has direct impact on development and quality of living of a people. We're a country that depends on import of finished products and export of natural resources and agricultural products. That's who we are. And so anything that affects trade between Nigeria, all the Gulf of Guinea, and the countries of the West and North and South America affects us as the people.
Well taken, well taken. And you have mentioned that frameworks are not the problem. And what has been the problem perhaps will be implementation or coming up with solutions.
Absolutely.
Now, what are the expected takeaways from this conference? Because one thing is to have a conference, another is to come up with a practicable solution that could deal with this. And of course, when we're talking about maritime banditry and whatever criminality, of course, there is a little bit of force that's required to do that.
Thank you very much. You asked a precise question. What is the expected takeaway at the conference? I'll tell you 4 important things that I think will be takeaway for the conference. The first one is that at the end of the conference, we are expected to come up with the Abuja Declaration on Maritime Security in the Gulf of Guinea. It will be a document that will be the consensus agreement of all participants, of course, drawn from 80 countries, on what needs to be done to arrest the deteriorating situation in the Gulf of Guinea and even other regions of the world. And so that will be the first takeaway. There will be a clearly defined roadmap to deal with maritime insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea. The second one is the perception that Nigeria is not serious about dealing with global maritime security challenge or the maritime security challenge we face in Nigeria. We will have the opportunity of showcasing to the world what we are doing in terms of strategy, in terms of operations, and in interagency collaboration, as well as regional collaboration to deal with the situation. The third thing is that we will get global institutions, multilateral agencies, bilateral agencies, nations of the world, partners, to make a clear statement on how they intend to contribute to dealing with the security challenge we're facing in the Gulf of Guinea. We have what is called a partners to leaders commitment segment. The countries of the world will be expected to make a clear declaration on this is how we intend to contribute to fighting insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea. This insecurity challenge does not just affect the Gulf of Guinea. As it happens in the Gulf of Guinea, it affects other regions of the world. That's the third thing. The fourth thing is that we will begin to correct the perception that the Gulf of Guinea states do nothing about insecurity. And the fifth important thing is that we'll be able to identify institutions and the roles and responsibilities they need to play in dealing with these issues. We've set up a series of institutions. We need to harmonize their roles and responsibility.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Dakuku Peterson. Let's bring in now Mr. Hassan Bello, CEO of the Nigerian Shippers Council. Are you interested in this conference? And
Yes,
if so, why? And if so, why?
I'm co-host of this conference. The issue of piracy, of course, having, as Dr. Dakuku Peterson said, a lot of tremendous, impact on our economies, local economies. The Gulf of Guinea, it's very important to world shipping. That route or the shipping lane is, a trading, connectivity between America, Britain, Europe, up to Nigeria. It's 6,000 kilometers of coastline, and it is also, where we have the maritime domain so, enlarged. About 5,000 barrels of oil produced every day on the Gulf of Guinea, and you could see that how important it is. Now, because of certain actions of piracy, that means the freight, that is what you pay in the space of a ship coming to Nigeria, escalates. There are also premiums, war risk premium, very high. This add to the cost of doing business, and so Nigerian ports, are becoming very, very expensive, and ships will not come. India, for example, has already directed that the ships should not come to Nigeria. So you could see the impact, on this. That's why it is very important we take the issue of, piracy. First, we have to define actually what piracy is. What is the legal framework? What is the prosecutorial framework? How do we get our judges? Because as far as I'm concerned, for what Nimasa did in now, bringing an act which has been signed into law, suppression of unlawful acts, piracy as unlawful acts. You could do some piracy things and nobody could prosecute you. But now we have a definite thing, and it has international dimension, which means the UNCLOS, United Nations Convention of Law of the Sea, the suppression of lawful acts. It's what has been combined to produce a legal framework. That's the first thing. The second, how do you have evidence of piracy? It's not an easy thing or a crime that happens everywhere. So you have electronic surveillance, you have other, electronic way of gathering. Then you have to come and prosecute. Do we have the talent? So there are only gaps that we have to talk at this conference. And it's not a Nigerian thing, just like shipping. It is global, it is regional, it's global. Piracy takes place in international waters. What we have in our, territorial waters, which is 12 miles, are incidences of armed robbery.
Yes, sea robbery.
Yes, sea robbery. And what you have at the ports, is another thing altogether. But all this are just legal thing. What we want is safe, secure, waters of Nigeria, so that more ships will come and we'll have business.
And Hassan Bello is of the Shippers Council.
Yes.
And of course, we've talked about maritime domain being enlarged,
Yes.
which means that many activities could take place, both
Yes.
legal and illegal.
Yes.
Then what are your people bringing to bear, bringing to the table, in this conference?
Yes, what we are trying to see is to make that important link between piracy and the economies of our nations. It is important that our economies, grow. We use the ships, we use the ocean, we use the maritime to grow. But then we cannot do that if we are unsafe. Take the traveling to Kaduna to Abuja, for example. You must have seen a rise in, the fares, of drivers, because they are afraid of coming until now when there have been solutions. So I want this conference to look at this issue. And we look at the statistics. Maybe after the conference in 2 or 3 months, it drops. The incidences of, armed robbery or piracy drops. And then I have the bragging rights to tell, everybody that don't, charge insurance premiums high because of goods destined for Nigeria.
Yeah, I think the point was made once when we took on this on Good Morning Nigeria, that part of the reason why the ports on the eastern flank of the country were less patronized than the ports on the western flank, in particular Apapa and Tinkan, had to do with issues of security and then the higher premiums that the ships needed to pay. Dr. Dakuku Peter said, very briefly, of course, discussing security implies multi-sectoral approach. You will need to have your security agencies, intel, and those with the firepower, not just for the states, but indeed for the participants. How much of this has been attracted to the conference next week?
Thank you very much. Let me start by agreeing with you that dealing with the issues of piracy and maritime crime requires interagency collaboration and regional collaboration, 2 dimensions, interagency within the country and regional collaboration. It's important to also say to you that the conference is being hosted by the Ministry of Transport and her agencies and the Nigerian Navy. As I speak to you, we're expecting 8 chiefs of naval staff from countries of West and Central Africa. We're expecting 16 representatives of chiefs of naval staff from not only Africa, including Brazil, United States, and some other countries of Europe. So we have full representation. Now we have navies from 38 countries coming for the conference, including 2 rear admirals from the United States. And so the Navy, the global naval community, is well represented at the conference or in the forthcoming conference. Aside from that, we're also bringing the head of the Coast Guard of Liberia, head of Coast Guard. We're bringing Coast Guard from 27 countries are coming for the conference. We have clearly confirmed over 500 foreigners coming for the Global Maritime Security Conference. Over 2,000 persons have registered for the conference.
Yeah.
And so we are bringing everybody to the room.
We're actually finding out when is it taking place?
The conference commences on the 7th of October, which is Monday, the beautiful city of Abuja, the International Conference Center, and will end on the 9th with the leaders to partners commitment segments and, of course, the issuance of the Abuja Declaration on
all right.
maritime security.
Yes, after that, we hope to have you back on this platform, for us to now, evaluate how the conference went.
Not just the conference. We expect a significant drop in maritime crime and piracy activities.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Lekuku Peter-Side, Director General of NIMASA. It's been wonderful talking to you this morning, and of course, our friend from Lagos, Hassan Bello, Executive Secretary and CEO, Nigerian Shippers Council. It's been good talking to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, now next is sports.